Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scout Selections here for Saturday, January 25th. Before we get into today's play of the day, a quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up picking up a loss with over 12.5 games in the first set between the Wawrinka and Isner match. Unfortunately, Isner won in straight sets the round before, and it turns out that he was actually injured, and nobody really knew about it. Isner had a couple of shots at a break point earlier in the set, but at the end of the day, he ended up getting broken by Wawrinka, and at some point, he injured something, and he just couldn't move, and then Isner ended up retiring in the second set as he was getting demolished, which is kind of brutal considering the fact that the only set that got any action was the first set, and we ended up losing because of the fact that he ended up withdrawing. Of course, if you still had Wawrinka moneyline or anything like that, you still were able to win if you were betting on FanDuel because of the retirement, but as a whole, Isner turned out to not be at 100%, and he tweaked something earlier in the match, which kind of caused his serving and his movement to be compromised, and that was definitely, a struggle there. But either way, picked up a loss, but we'll look for a bounce-back winner here for play of the day. And for today's play, we're going to be looking at the NBA, and there's a matchup that in particular that I like, and it will be between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we like the Oklahoma City Thunder -2, which is available at -110 on FanDuel, and that will be the play of the day. Now, the main reasons why we like the Thunder in this spot, first of all, the Timberwolves are just a really bad basketball team. They've lost each of their last 8 games. They lost yesterday to Houston, 131 to 124. So they did play yesterday. Oklahoma City played yesterday as well, but the difference here is that Oklahoma City is actually the #1 team in basketball, ATS, on back-to-backs. So Oklahoma City is a really good team when playing for the second straight day. They've also won each of the first 2 meetings against the Timberwolves this season, and I simply just think that the Timberwolves are a bit overmatched here, and I think you should see the Thunder play well. Now, in terms of the lineup, Steven Adams did not play yesterday, and he is currently a game-time decision. If he is able to go, that's definitely a big addition back into the lineup as he can help deal with Karl Anthony Towns. But at the end of the day, you have the Timberwolves, who have just been really bad lately, playing the second night of a back-to-back, and they're playing against a team that they haven't beaten this season, and I think after what we saw against the Rockets yesterday, Timberwolves defense was just terrible. I mean, I know that the Thunder played yesterday. They won against the Hawks by 29 points. They were able to rest the starters a bit in the fourth quarter as that game turned into a blowout roughly after 36 minutes. So I think you should see the usual starters look a little bit more refreshed because of the fact that they didn't have to play a serious workload for the entire 48 minutes. If you look at the actual minutes breakdown for Oklahoma City, starters still played a decent amount, but at the end of the day, they still didn't play the full amount. Gilgeous-Alexander played 37 minutes. Chris Paul played 28 minutes. Other than that, none of the other starters played more than 28 minutes. I think that they should look pretty good in the spot because of the fact that they didn't have to play a very stressful game yesterday against the Hawks as they ended up shooting 58% from the floor. Meanwhile, Minnesota was in a dogfight from start to finish against Houston. They made it close, gave up 45 points to Westbrook in a loss, but Minnesota definitely had a more stressful game where they had to play a lot longer, and I think that should definitely lead to some issues in the second half of this game as they start to run out of gas in the second half against a very talented and deep Oklahoma City team. Of course, it would be better if Adams does play, but even if Adams does not play, I still don't think that you should be worried into like a serious panic. Minnesota just isn't a good team. They're 15-30, still have the worst home ATS record in the entire league. And if you look at Minnesota, Wiggins played 33, Okogie played 32, Towns played 28, Covington played 29. Still played a decent amount of minutes here, just didn't work out for them as this team isn't great defensively. Offensively, they're okay, but overall, definitely a lack of talent offensively. So I think this is just a mismatch, and for that reason, I think Oklahoma City should be able to take care of business. So the play of the day, once again, will be on Oklahoma City -2, which is available on FanDuel at -110, and that will be the play of the day. Now, looking at the rest of the card, I still have video to make for winners and whiners, so I'm not going to be giving out all of my leans here, but overall, just to look at some of the games I will not be talking about on that show, looking at Utah and Dallas, I think that game's definitely interesting. Utah's been bet up for -2.5 to -4.5, and Utah's played really well over the last couple of weeks. Dallas has played well as you know, also, but Utah has been just on fire. The 31-13, they looked really good, and I think you should see Utah come out with a purpose here. Lean to Utah -4.5. I know Dallas is a very tough team to want to bet against because of the fact that Doncic can go off at any time, but Utah has been playing really well, and I think they should play well once again. For that reason, lean to Utah on that one. Other than that, looking at the rest of the card, I'm going to lean to Brooklyn -2 here against Detroit, mostly because Detroit played yesterday and Brooklyn had the day off, so Brooklyn has the rest advantage. However, Detroit did not use DeAndre Drummond yesterday, and he is expected to return for Saturday's game. Bit concerning because of the fact that the Nets tend to struggle against solid opposing big men, but as a whole, I just think the rest issue is too much for Detroit because of the fact that they had to play yesterday. Plus, you also have Reggie Jackson, who will not be playing in this game after playing yesterday. So, Detroit's going to be missing one of their best players. Griffin's still out, Kennard's still out, Snell's going to be out, Jackson's going to be out. They're just missing too many pieces, and I think that Detroit should struggle once again. I know the Nets have been playing really bad basketball ever since Kyrie returned to the starting lineup, but I think if there was a spot for them to bounce back, it would be this one because of the fact that Detroit has to play the second night of a back-to-back. A little bit of a tricky spot there, and I'm not really a big fan of that. So for me, lean to the Nets on that one. Now talking about some college basketball here, looking at some games on the card. What do I like here? Just looking through briefly what I notice. What do I like here? I'm going to lean to the under 133 between Texas Tech and Kentucky. Texas Tech's been known to play really solid defense under Beard, and their offense has been pretty underwhelming so far this season. Kentucky, on the other hand, their offense has been hit or miss, but their defense has been really solid this season. I think 132.5 is just a bit too high. I think both teams should finish in the low 60s. I think this game will be very close. But at the end of the day, I have to lean to the under. I think Texas Tech will pack it in, force Kentucky to shoot a bit from the outside. Kentucky hasn't been the greatest three-point shooting team this season, and I think you should see Kentucky in their length cause some issues for Texas Tech's offense, which has gone through some scoring droughts due to a lack of offensive firepower. I think this total's a bit too high. I lean to the under 132.5. Other than that, I got to lean to Florida -2 against Baylor. I'm not going to bet it because Baylor's kind of torched me twice, and I'm not going to get burned a third time by the number one team in the country. But Florida is currently a -2 favorite as an unranked team against the number one team in the country. That kind of tells me all I need to know about the game. So for me, I'll lean to Florida there. Even if they lose, the value is definitely there because of the fact that the spread itself makes no sense. An unranked team being a -2, being a 2-point favorite against Baylor, who's the number one team in the country, is just unheard of for me. So lean to Florida there. I think they should win outright. Lean to Florida. I think they'll get the job done by at least 3 points. Other than that, lean to Gonzaga -21 against Pacific. Pacific's been playing pretty well so far this season. They have struggled a bit lately, and Gonzaga's just dominating conference play. They've won their last couple of conference games by a ton, and Gonzaga should continue to play well. Plus, if it doesn't really matter in terms of how Gonzaga's going to be viewing the game, but if Baylor does lose, Gonzaga will be number one again. So they have the potential to be extra motivated if Baylor ends up losing. But as a whole, Kentucky's just bigger. They're the better offensive team. They play really solid defense as well. And I think we all know how it works in the WCC. Gonzaga's going to win all their conference games by 30, potentially struggle against St. Mary's late in the year. But at the end of the day, they'll probably win this game by 30. So lean to Gonzaga on that one. But the play of the day, once again, will be on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is available at -2 on FanDuel. And that will be the play of the day. Other than that, that's going to be the installment of Scott Selections here for Saturday, January 25th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.